Oh, here's a conversation that's we can see if we can work with. How is instinct different from intuition? If it is,
Say again, please.
how may instinct be different than intuition? And thinking from from how you see it now to how the world had you see it. If there is a difference.
I would suggest that instinct is kind of like intuition, but it's automatic. Or it might have been intuition that's become automatic.
Feel like instinct is the intuition of the body. Like you're saying, it's become more automatic, more imprinted.
Yeah, and an instinct has its own focus. So like you say, there's a survival instinct. So that's an instinct that's focused on survival.
But I'm thinking like survival instinct and then like animal instinct in
Like it's more imprinted in the DNA, the instinct. The other one is more from from our higher self, the intuition.
yeah, I feel like instinct's like lower chakra and intuition's more heart chakra.
Yeah. Sort of like the same radio station, just different programs.
Is there a different discipline like between the two? Like how do we separate them? And so yeah.
Feels like instinct is more based on the environment around you. When your instinct kicks in, it comes from more like the outside in, all the analyzing and adjustments to that, and the other freely based on everything.
Yeah, that's how I see it too, Heinz. I see more of a response, like a trained, a conditioned response. That
You mean as an instinct, you mean?
has an instinct, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've been exploring the difference between these two for a lot of time in my writings, and I believe an instinct is a learned response or an adaptation, and which means that it can be unlearned or replaced.
Conditioning, conditioned.
Yes. Yeah.
A learned, a trained, a response. Yeah, look at all of them.
Yeah, and it's become epigenetic. As in, it's become ingrained in DNA expression.
And so familiar that it just happens. We don't even realize it. We don't even question it. We don't even wonder about it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I said, like, it's an automatic. It might have been intuition, but it's an intuition that's become automatic.
Yep.
Because to me, intuition is kind of an innate way of knowing what to do or how to respond when you're faced with something that's unknown or something that hasn't been experienced before.
I googled it and it said instinct means to act purely on based feelings. Intuition means to have some well-founded speculations based on some known facts to you.
Sounds like an AI response.
Yeah, it's Google.
Yeah.
But that sounded a bit similar to what you were saying there about the known facts and unknown.
So the instinct is like responding to the feeling, to the emotion of it, the energetic feeling that's there without thought to it, right? Without just acting, just going with it, responding.
Yeah, it's a response to stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That can, when it becomes automatic, then it's reaction. It's a reaction response.
And I like, and then I've And I think a lot of people think that intuition is following your gut feeling. That's how I would have thought of it before really seeing it for myself. For what I will call intuition. And I think that's, well, maybe that's more of the Google response. I don't know. Because I think the intuition that I know it now comes from the unknown.
Yeah.
Comes from sitting in the quiet and the neutral and the silence without the emotions to observe or to like be aware of what's there. By not responding to the emotions, not responding to the stimuli. Knowing that it's still there, it's like, okay, that's to be aware and recognize it. And then to just pause and say, what else is there? What's through this? And then, like, to me, that is sitting in neutral, like to slow down, to pause in neutral and wonder.
Yeah. Intuition is present. It's current.
Mm-hmm.
Like it stays dynamic.
Yes.
Right, where an instinct becomes a conditioned response.
Yep.
And intuition is never a conditioned response.
That's right. It's usually something we hadn't thought of or had never thought of before.
Right. I mean, to me, that's why people avoid using their intuition, because it's because I already decided that before, right? It's kind of like that kind of thing, right? We don't want to live like that. We want to live automatically. We don't want to live responsibly. Responsively, I guess would be a better word.
There might be some version of control in that too, or a sense of control, right?
Yeah. People like having a predictable life.
Yep. Familiar, even if it's chaos, messy, and not good.
Yeah.
For some reason, I got the idea about breathing exercises. We breathe normally. That's instinct.
Yeah.
But when we do breathing exercises, it's more intuition.
Mm-hmm.
We're changing it into something new. So yeah, one is automatic.
And it becomes a playful imagination.
different way to measure our own energy.
To me, as I know the words or without the science, but just the experience for me is like that playful imagination is in the connection to the field, to the universal field that probably I spent a lot of time with as a kid. In my younger, without the conditioned responses, and most of the conditioned responses were in the worldly structure of this is how you act.
Yeah.
When we were kids, our imaginations was way more present. You could have an imaginary friend. It was here and now.
And that was all cute until you got old enough to be, okay, now you need to grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. We think it's control by just responding to the stimuli, to the familiar. It gives us that sense that we're in control of it just because we know what it is.
Yeah.
Where the control is choosing to be like how to respond to it. It's like to see it, to sense it, and to let it just be, not react to it.
Well, there's a real move in the personal development industry to replace one instinct with another.
Yeah.
As if that is an improvement. But instinct retains the structure.
Yes.
So when I go from survive mode and I convert that to thrive mode, that's considered an improvement, but it's still hampered by the same instinctual structure.
Yeah, the known, right? For the underlying hasn't been examined.
Right.
It's like a shallow shift. It's just
Yeah. Because the underlying motivation of survival is fear, and the underlying of thriving is scarcity. And both of them lack any kind of fulfillment.
So in that model, what would provide fulfillment?
Well, I find personally that learning to be present, learning to be in the moment, learning to give attention to my intuition is fulfilling in itself.
Mhm.
Because my intuition always leads me to authenticity and sustainability. Which are two things that are sadly lacking in the world today.
Mhm. Which is usually what shows up when it's things that need to reveal themselves are not the things that we're doing.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
so
there's kind of an avoidance.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know,
so
we
then
don't want to know the truth of what's motivating us, for example.
Yeah. Which is where I'll say that, yes, that thriving takes us to the edge of that fulfillment. Like it doesn't take us through it, it takes us to the edge of it, and it all is in the definition of how we understand that word. So not to
You mean the word fulfillment?
thriving. The word thriving.
Yeah.
And it's like the one step away from fear, but it's not the whole step to fulfillment, to authenticity. It's part of the path.
Right.
Expansive.
Yeah, it's the one that's been heavily promoted.
Yeah. Yeah, which then means you can use it, right? To that it's not all seen yet. Which that's a bit, the intuition is the authentic. The intuitive is the authentic, imaginative, playful self. So, or spirit or energy or whatever. It just might not also be the self. The self almost is worldly, it seems to me.
Yeah, I've come to recognize my intuition as my true nature. And I like that terminology better than higher self or
Yeah.
because true nature applies authenticity too. And I realize that my true nature is extremely powerful. As I allow it to be so.
And in a whole different way than what our instinct of around power or how we've been conditioned to think of power.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the difference between controlling and allowing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, intuition doesn't dominate because it knows that it doesn't have to. You know, it doesn't have to compete with anybody else's because it combines. It naturally combines with others.
Combines and builds and amplifies.
Amplifies, yeah.
Allows, and that's the difference in controlling it, right? Controlling it, that's a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, you realize you don't want to control it because then it loses its it loses its power. It loses its
Loses its authenticity.
yeah, and well, it loses its energy too. Hmm. Hmm. I'm just curious if instinct can be retrained. So what came to me earlier is, okay, go ahead. Fine.
Isn't that what a fireman does? Because your first instinct is to run away when there's fire.
Right.
And all of a sudden their instinct says, now it's time to get out because it's falling down, but their intuition says, hey, I can actually save one more.
Yeah.
They're working with it daily, but only on one part of the instinct and intuition relating to fire. So it's probably like you said, that it's intuition that turns into instinct when it becomes more automatic.
Yeah, and if it's founded on a mistaken interpretation or something, then it's, yeah. Because the scoop is there's no reason in the world today. Well, no, maybe I'll reword that. There may be some reasons, but by and large, there's no reason for the survival instinct to be prevalent. However, why I still can't figure out why in the wealthiest countries in the world that people are starving.
Is it by design?
Well, yeah. Because that's the survival instinct worked out in a macro scale. It's like in order for me to be wealthy, other people have to suffer. That whole idea.
Which has been history. I mean, the survival instinct has allowed our lineage to survive.
In
For
spite
millions,
of that.
in millions of years, and only in the last 100, like 3 generations, has that changed significantly that we can't even catch up.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lifetime for us, yeah, but
Well, it is.
I know. I know. It's that one book, I can't remember the name of it, but it says it's like this latest lesson humanity's learning is greed. Which is power, which is control, which is the money, which is all the survival instinct, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, and we've
isn't
created.
abundance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though we have it, it's there in abundance. It's limiting. It's like the old and the new.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we feel we have to gatekeep
Yeah.
for some reason.
Hoard. A hoard is another better word. It's like we all have that in us.
Yeah.
And I don't think society was always that way. I don't. It was like somewhere along the way it did. It did. I mean, I don't, you can go a long ways back in history and say that peasants would want to be a king.
Uh-huh. Well, and then you wonder, why is there a king in the first place?
Right, that too.
Yeah.
Like at some point, that was a good idea that seemed to work. And for a long time.
That's what the king told us. It works with a
Right,
king.
right. And democracy was then developed, right, from that. Improved in some ways and not in others.
It's because it was based upon what the king said. So it doesn't matter how much you change a lie, it will still be a lie.
Yeah.
You need to empty the glass and fill some new water in.
A bit of a side note. Do you know, like when the royal family and that, the kings and queens, they wear them crowns? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's I think that's doing something, yeah. as in like attracting like the energy to flow through, you know. But the reason why that came up was because I seen a video last night and he was talking about like how back in the day when you was naughty in class, they used to put that hat on your head.
Yeah.
But but like that used to be like a kind of like golden kind of spiral hat. And like what that used to do was it used to like get the energy flowing right so then the person could focus. But yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, there's a lot of traditions, right, that to deal with that part of the head, you know, the top of the crown of the head. And all in the like you know, from the traditions, right, to the stories, to the myths, and to the lies, right? Who, yeah, we can't. Nobody can tell the difference. Like in all reality, right? In all reality, there is no difference between them.
Yeah.
Back in the 1920s, everybody was wearing a hat. All of a sudden, it got out of fashion, and now nobody's wearing one. And it did have a steel rim within it.
Yeah, because I think it's been like sidetracked now, isn't it? And the hats kind of block the energy and block the third eye from getting the sun. But like them crowns with them metals and crystals and like you say, metal bands going round, it's must be a reason for that.
Well, there's a thing about kings being directly connected to God.
Yeah,
Which
that could be part of
which I think has something to do with crown, with what's on their head.
So should we all get a crown then?
Well, we already have one, figuratively. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, that's the crown chakra. I mean, it's like, you know, it's where divine inspiration comes in.
But isn't that being amplified with that? And in the connections being increased?
Could be.
If you believe it is, then yes.
Yeah.
Then you would wear a crown.
That'll be funny, won't it, if I start walking around with a crown on?
Yeah.
Your instinct will tell you, your instinct is going to tell you that, yes, and then that will determine whether you do it or not, based on how much you believe that it will work for you.
Or how much of a plonker I'm going to look.
Instinct and intuition. That's a perfect example. Divide between the instinct and intuition, Joe. Right there.
Yes.
And so much why people like fight it or won't listen to their instinct, because it goes against they won't listen to the intuition because it goes against the instinct.
So the conflict. So the instinct and intuition is in conflict, like.
Can be. When it goes against the grain, when it goes against society, right? That's the scary part for people. Just that example, man. If you're into it, if it was true for you to wear a crown, would you wear a crown? I mean, it's a kind of an absurd example, but in reality, it's like that's what we face as we listen to our intuition.
Yeah.
Because one, it doesn't make any damn logical sense.
Yeah.
Usually, right? And our authentic self typically goes against what we've been told, which is why we're looking for it and listening to it anyway. And the frustration is because we surrender to the instinct rather than the intuition.
Another crazy thing I heard was like the clothes that we're wearing, like cotton and stuff or whatever. It's meant to like neutralize the grounding energies. But then, like back in the day, like they used to wear linen. What do you know about that, Craig?
Mm. That's very possible. You know that in the early 1900s, um, and I don't know exactly who did this, but they decided that that in musical tunings, that A should be set at 440 hertz, and that's another form of controlling the masses, because 440 hertz is an unnatural well, it's an unnatural frequency for your body. Like, and it means that a regular scale, none of the tones in a 440 scale actually match the solfeggio frequencies. So it's kind of a way that they've used music to keep human beings in dissonance instead of in harmony.
There's a free app on the App Store where you can make it so everything that's coming out of your phone is 432 hertz, music and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was introduced by Rockefeller or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 20s.
Yep. Yep.
So before that, was it just naturally at a 432?
Well, yeah, I'm talking about the A frequency. Like it was originally at, like, when people like Mozart created their stuff, they had A at 444, which gives you solfeggios all the way through. Solfeggio notes. Yeah, and I think it was Rockefeller and this and that. But you look at history, and especially American history, and there was a lot of stuff that happened between 1900 and 1930 that basically manifested the society that we live in today. And there's a lot of things that happened in those 30 years that were meant to, to have detrimental control over people. That's when the federal banking system was set up. It was 1913. And in America, 1920, I think, is when alternative medicine was outlawed. And yeah, there's a number of things like that happened in that 30-year period. That were specifically meant to control people by using dissonance. And I don't know if they knew that that's what they were doing or not, but that's what that's what happened.
It's like so much with so much of innovation, right? We always see the positive sides of things and never see the downside or the negative, right? Or until later, right? I mean,
Right,
the same
right.
thing was anytime you create a rule, right? There's certain intentions that go to the rule, but then once it's out there for a while, then people figure ways to get around it.
Right. Well, and those kind of innovations were they were promoted to the public as improvements, as life improvements, right?
Yeah. And sure, I mean, a close example I think of with that, right, is Facebook. Facebook was promoted on that foundation of spreading happiness.
Right. Yep. While they intentionally make it addictive and
today it's different,
right?
Today is a whole different animal, even by the guy that created it, for the specific intention. Like the intention that was there is shifted from what it was to now make money, which is what everything in this society survives on.
Right.
So another example of intuitive instinct. Yeah. Intuition that falls back to the instinct.
Yeah.
And that comes through all the choices, right? That's every single choice leads that way.
You think we'd figure out that commercializing things really wrecks them.
Unless you're the commercials, unless you're the advertisers and the
sad.
producers.
That's right.
I mean, it works like a charm. Sucker, yeah, suckers.
Well, that was another thing that was created in the first 30 years of the 1900s was consumers and consumerism.
Yep.
At that time, the vast majority of people in the world were self-employed.
It went from things you needed, right? Like needed to have, to things that you wanted.
Exactly. Yeah.
That didn't know you needed. Yeah, there was that's a big shift in all of it.
Yeah.
That's a huge structural shift.
Yeah.
No, that was supposed to be in a way was better for everyone. Because it sparked innovation, right? And it also has its downsides.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for today. I enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Really
did too. That's
exciting.
pretty good.
Nice one, guys. Big love to y'all.
All right. Thanks,
Well,
Joe.
have a
Thanks,
blessed day.
Heinz.
Love and
Thanks,
hugs.
Craig.
Love and
Stay
hugs,
blessed.
Heinz. Great to have
Till
you on
next
here
time.
today, Joe.
Yeah,
Awesome.
great to see you guys. I love you. All right.
Remember your crown now, Joe.
I know I'm gonna
That's
get crowned.
It's already on
Sounds
there.
good.
It's already on.
You bring it
All right,
back
guys.
in.
Love you.
Yeah. Love.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.